With Creature Commandos finished, otherwise known as the beginning of James Gunn's DCU, we were introduced to a series of fun characters in a formula Gunn knows he can succeed in, team-ups. We've known he could succeed in this ever since his live-action ScoobyDoo movie release all the way back in 2002, far before his Guardians of the Galaxy run. I very happily grew up with this movie and this franchise, and with Scooby-Doo as a whole, so you wouldn't be surprised when I was shocked to find out Scooby-Doo is already canon to James Gunn's new DCU. Welcome to Big Flick Energy, and let's get right into it. So for starters, Creature Commandos is a show already stuffed with Easter eggs and cameos, already showing us Superman, which we're about to get a movie for in July, Peacemaker, which we're going to get a series for later this year, King Shark, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Blue Beetle in the DCU, before we've gotten movies for any of them, or stories for any of them. Well, I'm still not 100% sure about that, because apparently the Suicide Squad, Blue Beetle, and Peacemaker Season 1 are all loose canon to the new DCU. So until something disproves those projects in their current forms not being canon, I'm including them as part of this world. But we already have a ton of DC Easter eggs. One Easter egg I was not expecting to see though was during a montage of Frankenstein chasing down the bride throughout history, and in a blink and you'll miss it moment, we see a character that looks exactly like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Now, this doesn't seem to mean much until we start to think about Gunn's past, Scooby-Doo's past, and the DCU's future. So for starters, Gunn, who is now in charge of the DCU and creating a new cinematic universe around DC's greatest characters, also famously was the mastermind behind the first two live-action Scooby-Doo movies in Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. So, similar to how directors James Gunn and David Sandberg both directed Annabelle movies and both gave Annabelle a cameo in their respective DCEU movies of Aquaman and Shazam, I think Gunn is doing the same thing here, and considering I made a video tying the Conjuring universe and DCEU together, you already know exactly where this video is eventually going. Outside of that though, would this even work to tie these two worlds in together? The answer to that is a definite yes, as Scooby-Doo and DC have crossed over more times than I can count. For a little bit of history of these interactions pulled directly from DC fandom's database, since 1972 there have been several crossovers between Scooby-Doo and DC, starting with Scooby-Doo meets Batman. Then in 1997, DC acquired the rights to publish comics based on Hanna-Barbera characters and began publishing a monthly Scooby-Doo comic. In 2013, DC began a digital bi-monthly comic book titled Scooby-Doo Team Up, crossing over Mystery Inc. with other DC characters. Scooby-Doo and team have made two cameos in Teen Titans Go. In the Scooby-Doo and Guess Who episode, What a Night for a Dark Night, it's revealed that Daphne is Alfred Pennyworth's niece. In the comics, Alfred already had a niece named Daphne Pennyworth in the Earth 1 continuity, so it kind of ties that in together. Then there's a Scooby-Doo and Crypto the Superdog movie, a story they would actually be able to start developing in live action if they wanted to, since we already have both of those characters in live action. And also the gang have come across multiple iterations of Batman, whether it be the anonymous one from What a Night for a Dark Night, the Brave and the Bold Batman, or the Adam West Batman. You get the point. Obviously, Scooby-Doo has crossed over with a myriad of characters, whether it be Courage the Cowardly Dog or John Cena from the WWE. But the amount of times that it's crossed over with DC and more specifically Batman is no coincidence. Scooby-Doo and DC are extremely intertwined, and to an extent you can't have one without the other. In a way, Scooby-Doo is already canon to the DCEU, given 2 episodes crossing over with the Adam West Batman, a version of Batman that does appear in the multiverse in the Flash movie. So, if one version of Scooby-Doo and gang is already canon to the DCEU, why not make a different version of Scooby-Doo canon to the DCU, considering they've already showed Shaggy in its first official project, Creature Commandos? And lastly, does it make sense given where the DCU is going? 100%. When Gunn first announced the projects for the DCU, he had his own take on Marvel's phases with chapters, and he said this would be Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Keyword monsters. Obviously, Creature Commandos helps get that title off on the right track by being about a team of monsters, but adding in Scooby-Doo into this world, a show literally about unmasking people dressed as monsters, would be the perfect fit. Especially considering the iteration we want to include is from Gunn's live-action movies, which have actual monsters, and the second movie literally being called Monsters Unleashed. So this honestly fits beautifully into this world. So we have our cameo, we have the creator's connection to both franchises, we have a ton of connections between these two franchises from the past, and we have DCU's first chapter that makes perfect sense to call Gunn's Scooby-Doo its own. Now, all we need is how it fits into the timeline. And given how small-scale stories the Scooby-Doo movies and shows are, it fits in pretty well. The only struggle I could see is that the DCU is a world already populated with superheroes, and there isn't a mention of superheroes in Scooby-Doo at all. Matter of fact, with the first movie, they still don't think monsters are real. Now, my solution for this is the live-action movie takes place as a follow-up to the original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, in the 70s instead of being its own thing of the early 2000s. The early 2000s movies are very heavily inspired by the 70s series, but they have no clear reference saying that it takes place in the 70s. Rather, most people say that it takes place in the early 2000s because of the look, and to be fair, the only thing holding the Scooby-Doo movies from taking place in the 70s is the look. That it does kind of look like the early 2000s, but they still look like hippies, they go to a disco bar, and even in the Superman movie trailer, you can tell the DCU that this world does not look like ours does today and looks a lot more comic booky, something that fits with the style of the theme park known as Spooky Island from the first Scooby-Doo movie. So I would say background items that make a time period look like a time period may not necessarily be the most accurate way to describe what year the movie takes place in. And because of this, I would actually say the 3 seasons of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, taking place in 1969, 70, and 71, where they unmask fake monsters as criminals, would fit in Batman's Rogues Gallery and use an art style that makes the Shaggy we see in Creature Commandos look very familiar. I would say that takes place in this world as well, simply because the movies that were later made by Gunn are heavily inspired by the original series, where even in the second part we'll see those original monsters. So, like I mentioned before, the 3 seasons of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Take place in this world, alongside Gunn's Scooby-Doo in 1975, where we meet real monsters and see some stylism similar to the DCU, and Gunn's Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed in 1979, which feeds into Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and shows us real monsters that we first met in the Where Are You series. They are all canon to the DCU. Matter of fact, if you take all the projects that are loose canon like Blue Beetle, Peacemaker, and the Suicide Squad, cameos like Scooby-Doo, and rumored to be part of this world movies like Matt Reeves' The Batman Epic Crime Saga, you take all of those together, this world would already have 12 projects. But hey, that's just a theory. A DCU theory. Well, no. For now, let's just discuss Scooby-Doo. Now, do I think we'll ever see that version of Mr. Inc. cross over in live action to DCU? Probably not. Obviously, some of these actors from that original Scooby-Doo movie are still acting, so maybe you can get them to make a live action cameo, but that's the beauty of this theory. You can ignore this altogether if you want, or you can watch an iconic series and 2 fun movies to help kickstart your viewing of the DCU. It's 100% your choice. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you. But in my book, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo 2, and Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Are part of the DCU. That rhymed. But with that, thank you for watching this video. Please let me know your thoughts on whether Gunn's Scooby-Doo duology and the original animated series exists in the new DCU, your thoughts on Creature Commandos, if you would want to see a live-action Scooby-Doo and Crypto movie in the DCU, if you think Blue Beetle, The Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker Season 1 are canon, and your excitement level for Superman coming out in July. Thanks again for watching, and see you all next time on Big Flick Energy.